one of my friends called me still magnolia, like very strong but very sensitive. So I can be very strong in acting, but at the same time I'm quite sensitive to circumstances, to everything that's going around. I still cannot feel in my mind everything that is now going in the world. Yeah, not only in Ukraine, but again, still in Ukraine, still, and in general in the world.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm human, woman, Ukrainian, currently living in Timișoara for 3 years since the beginning of full-scale invasion in Ukraine, dealing with the Ukrainian cultural diplomacy projects, building the bridges between Romania and Ukraine, and creating the Ukrainian community here in Timișoara.
My life story began in Kyiv, in capital of Ukraine. It was an amazing region. I would say it's still my PowerPoint. If I'm dreaming all the time when I come to Kyiv, I'm coming to our yard to spend some time in this place because I really like it. It's almost the heart of the city. It's near the amazing parks. And I remember a lot of small details from childhood, how friends, my school was situated at the same street, and actually, yeah, until 14 years old, I was living on in one place with my mom and my granny that grew me up. Actually, there we faced the fall of Soviet regime when everything changed, and I remember it very good. And well, yes, when I was 14, we moved to another region, but didn't change the school. So I was studying all my life. I was studying in one school. I have a very interesting story of my family, of my granny and mom. They are originally from Berdichev. It's the city in the center of Ukraine, and it's historically it's Jewish Polish city where Jewish and Polish settlement was. They were my grandmother's parents. They had huge family of kind of 8 brothers and sisters, and altogether they were very, very, very big family. And unfortunately, in 1937, when there was this anti-Soviet movement, almost all the family was arrested, and only in many, many years we know when archives were secreted, we knew that almost all of them were killed after some tortures, after some period of time. And my granny was born in 1923, so she faced Holodomor, she faced these repressions. When she was 18, the World War II started. She gave birth to my mom in 1941, actually several months before the war. And in 1943, she gave birth to the sister of my mom, to my uncle. Her husband was taken to the army. Her mom was sent to Kazakhstan, and after all of them came back. So yes, she was a very powerful woman. She lived until 96, so she died in 2018. And for me, she was an example of such a strong inner being, you know. I was really wondering how they managed to overcome all these circumstances, crucial circumstances in their life, and managed all this. My mom was very different. She was much more soft, much more gentle, much more sensitive. But at the same time, I would say that her decisions also regarding my life were important and crucial. I realized it only after I lost her. I think that it's almost common situation that we start to understand how valuable our parents were in our life when we lost them or when we already have our kids. You know, in my life it happened that I lost my mom and only in 2 weeks I knew that I'm pregnant. So it was kind of a system, I don't know why it was made, but like this. So my mom, she made very good decisions of, for example, moving to Kyiv to work. It was a good development for her as a professional. Then again, in Soviet Union, being a single mom that was brave enough to give birth in her 41 at that period of time, it's 1982. It's a brave decision, having no support and no husband. In communism style, it was kind of tricky. She was a religious person even during the Soviet Union when it was not supported, so she baptized me in Catholic religion. I cannot say that I'm a religious person, but I think that anyway this approach feels somehow. Again, when I went to the secondary school, to primary, secondary, we call it secondary in general, in general school, yes. At that time, it was still Soviet Union, but she gave me to the school, Ukrainian school with deep learning of English language. At that time was what totally not typical to study in Ukrainian language and to deeply learn English. It also was quite interesting and strong decision for that time. And also one more decision was interesting for me also, because when I graduated from school, I graduated with the golden medal, like it's and I was choosing the university. I didn't know where I want to, whom I want to be. I think it's also quite a typical situation for the teenager, but she decided to force me to go to graduate to National University of Kyiv Mohyla Academy on the information department. In the period of Kyiv Mohyla Academy, I started to be very involved in youth movement. It was the Kyiv Youth. There were two organizations, one government organization and one non-government, like NGO. Yeah, NGO. It was called like the Union of Youth and Kids Organizations, and the government organization was like social service for youth. And those two organizations were operating together, and of course they involved a lot of youth organizations, young people, to create. We created summer camps, we created festivals, we created programs for kids, young talented kids with disabilities. It was a movement of several thousand young talented people who united in Kyiv to create different useful stuff around the youth. And it was, you know, like a milestone in my life. So with my friends, we realized that at that time, many of us found actually this, you know, your place or your desire, what you want to do in your life. The knowledge from university helped me to enter this, you know, first commercial job. And I was hired in the company that was dealing with the big air conditioning supply. It was the distributor of air conditioning systems. Kind of in a year, they proposed me to become a head of marketing department. So I was kind of 23 when I became a head of marketing and PR department of this organization. And it was interesting because sometimes when some people from the street came and who is there? Like, the next step was quite interesting again because I was quite bored after 5 years on the same place, even if it was it was rather interesting. But afterwards, I start to repeat, you know, like you're doing all the same from year to year. You know, something stable was at that time in our life. And so at that time, again in Kyiv, started to develop the movement called Auto Quest. I don't know if there is such a type of entertainment in Romania. Maybe you know quest rooms, escape rooms. Very crucial project for us was the collaboration with the biggest television company of Ukraine, and they were creating the format called, it's United States format called Biggest Losers. The format where fat guys during 4 months they are losing their weight. We started collaboration with them, and it was for 3 years, and it was totally crazy. Like every week we had 2 shootings of these competitions, and it was every time some new task. Now today it's some alpinism story, tomorrow it's something else, and it was always about challenging, because you never know what you have to do. You always have to overcome, to break some walls, to find some decisions. I really remember that in one moment I had a feeling that I can do everything in Kyiv. Each task was unique, but it was crazy and very burning out. In 2015, me and my husband, we decided to move to Odessa, and for us it was kind of, let's say, changing the picture to something more stable, because my husband received a proposal to in Odessa in company on a labor contract, and I was just very tired. So I moved to Odessa, and there we spent 7 years in Odessa. I didn't plan to work, but very quickly I was contacted with the local tourist agency that were dealing with the in-loving people with Odessa and Odessa region. And after several months of searching what Odessa is, I came to them and I told them, yes, I'm interested in working with you because I fall in love with Odessa. And we gave birth to our kid there in Odessa, and actually in 2022 the war faced us there. Romania was very logical to move, because it's the first border. Moldova and Romania is the first borders from Odessa, and somehow we were lucky in this, because we were not escaping from the middle of Ukraine, as Kyiv, for example, or from the western eastern part, because there were huge queues on the Poland borders, on because most of people were going there. So in this south part it was not so difficult. Yes, so we settled in Cluj for 2 weeks, just because it was a quick decision. Our friends were going there, they rented an apartment, they had a room for us, so we just settled, and then we'll see. It's quite difficult to remember these first weeks. It was something very, very strange. It was kind of a mess. We were dealing with tons of information, what is going on, what is happening, connecting with all of our friends, who is where, who is moving, who is staying, what is happening. And afterwards, when it was clear that it's not for 3 days, we started to search where to go, and I don't know why, but all the ways were to Timișoara. Like, we started searching apartments in Cluj, and everybody were telling us go to Timișoara. Then I knew that here it was this amazing support center that was organized by municipality, but other NGO organizations and the volunteering. And also a friend of my husband contacted us and told that I'm in Timișoara, come here, I will help you with everything you need. It's apartments, like everything. So yeah, that's how we moved to Timișoara. It was middle of March, almost 3 years ago. When I came to Timișoara, again, I'm very lucky to be here with my husband, because if I were alone, I will not be able to do everything like this with being with a small kid. So he was working, and I was just in need to be useful somewhere. It was not possible to sit and to do nothing in new reality in such situation. So I came to the support center and asked how I can be useful being with the small kids, and they told me that it would be very good to translate, because at that time there was a huge amount of people who were passing by, and the need was to translate, because every day it was another information, new story, new situation, new people coming, when you know the information, you can start to be like a welcoming team. So after some period of time, maybe several weeks, I saw that information is changing every time, every day, and people don't know information. So I proposed them to create a Telegram group, Ukrainians in Timișoara, with an idea of connecting people together and connecting them to all the organizations here. They told me, okay, let's do it. I created the Telegram group, and very quickly it became like a core place that connected Ukrainians. Some people from Moldova who support it and who can give some fresh information, very different from where to receive the immigration documents and to where to buy the black tea, you know, or hrichka. So yeah, first period of time it was this type of contribution, and after that, when the information started to be more or less stable, I've created the info document with all the information what is happening where, because at that time it was mayor something, organizations start to not to be united all together in one volunteering center, but they reunited again back, and there were kind of 5-10 different projects dealing with support of Ukraine, of Ukrainians at that time. And at that moment I think that this, let's say, social moment of my contribution more or less finished, except the fact that we did the social shop for Ukrainians for more 1 year because of the project that we got, thanks to Mihaela Vitan, Intersecting Kres. Again, why? Because there was a huge amount of humanitarian aid at that time that was brought to Ukrainian Union, to support center, and it was like tons of it, and we had to spread it somehow, so it was reasonable to find somewhere the project to have place where to spread this humanitarian aid. But afterwards it changed. Again, not thinking too much. Direction to the cultural. Now I know that it's cultural diplomacy, because at that time it was just very obvious that all the things that were happening were related to supporting the Ukrainian refugees. And for me it was kind of not the full picture, because Ukrainian refugees, there was a moment of, for first months, of course, it was a huge problem, it was a huge migration, but afterwards it more or less settled, and people start to feel more stable, more or less. But the fact is that all attention was to the poor Ukrainian refugees, but not to the fact what is actually happening in Ukraine. And for me it was very important to start sharing this information about Ukraine, about the war, about personal stories of those who settled here, about our cultural identity, about the fact that it's not the story of 10 years, it's the story of all the history of Ukraine, that we are all the time, since the Moscow started its existence much later than Kiev was, they start to fight against us. And after against the propaganda, understanding that actually Romanian people does know a lot about Ukraine if we are neighboring countries. Yeah, it's kind of a gap in information and understanding who we are. The same back also in Ukraine. Being in Ukraine, we don't know so much about Romania until we came here, you know. So that's how I started networking with a lot of organizations here in Romania, in Timișoara. Again, didn't know that Timișoara at the time was preparing to capital of culture. I knew it a bit later, maybe in a month or two. Someone told me, but don't you know that we are preparing now to the capital of culture? And again, of course, cultural sector has a huge projects and development. And again, it was a huge attention to Ukrainian topic at that time. So that's how I started to network with many different organizations, and it cost us to making different cultural projects, like making mural on Independence Day of Ukraine, making video mapping show on Independence Day of Ukraine, bringing borscht to Romanian community as something that always melts the heart of those who tasted it. Some networking events with sharing the stories, Ukrainian artisans whom we brought to local fairs, artisan fairs, and many other collaborations in this form, also with an idea that I always wanted to involve someone from Ukrainian community, and I know all these people very good at that time, to be in an active role. That's how we created a documentary film in frames of Moving Fireplaces project. When we start filming the stories of Ukrainian refugees here in Timișoara, and then we understood that it would be very good to send filmmaker Mircea also to Ukraine. So I was a fixer and assistant of producer at that time for him, because thanks to my friends in Kyiv, we sent him there. He filmed. Of course, producers of the project, they were not very happy with this idea initially, but we explained that it will be okay. At that moment in Kyiv was very quite safe. And in a year, in 2023, some good people in Timișoara advised me, and it was so nice that every time when I was trying to explain these values, what we need, what I want to bring, I always faced yes and open doors. Like you have amazing people here, at least in the cultural field, I know for sure, because when you come with the idea, for sure, maybe if they don't have this possibility, they will tell you where to go and with whom to contact. And this, community building, especially around Timișoara as a capital of culture, I think it was an amazing experience for Timișoara cultural and social sector in general. Yeah. So in 2023, I was advised to make an NGO, and I registered an NGO in Ukraine, not in Romania, in Ukraine, because again it was important to have this international collaboration projects. And that's how we continued, but in the form of official organization, but not in the form of just, activists, crazy activists. That's the way Faina UA started. Having these official organizations gave the opportunity to go for collaboration grants. That's how we brought such a big projects as, for example, the concerts of Jamala and Druga Reka that we did in summer 2023 on the Independence Day of Ukraine, in collaboration with Art Media and with Flight Festival. And that's how we actually started to write common grants together, and how we created this theater co-production with the big drama theater of Ukraine based on the University of Timișoara, the theater performance in Romanian language, and its Ukrainian theater performance about the beginning of the full-scale invasion that we translated to Romanian language and played here at the end of in November 2024. And it's actually, for me, for today, it's like an example of what has to be this cultural diplomacy projects, because we not just brought something Ukrainian abroad, but we brought the idea, brought the team who was able to make it with local team in Romanian language, and that's about implementation. And actually we were called to present our project on the Creative Europe Good Practices conference at the end of the year, and it was one of the best. And this idea of bringing an integration to local community was marked as a significant one in general.